in this Digital Arabia Network Day session. Today, or now, we are speaking Industry 4.0. I hope you had the opportunity to join some of the sessions earlier today. They will go from Germany to other countries in the region with this focus on Tunisia to explore a topic that is becoming almost like a buzzword. Industry 4.0 is a big word when it comes to digital transformation of the manufacturing of all industries actually. So what is really behind this topic? This is something we'll discover with Ayed, with Dr. Fisher, with Mr. Takayef from Tunisia, and you are also welcome to connect with us and share some insights on the chat. So maybe quickly a quick introduction of our panelists today. So Professor Ayed is a professor for change management and consulting, and he is an associate member of the Einstein Digital Center, the Einstein Center for Digital Future. He's also professor at the School of Public Leadership in South Africa, and teaches at the Basel University as well as in Berlin. So Professor Ayed, you are everywhere. You are just transforming industries. You are transforming minds. So a big welcome to this panel. And on top of everything, you are the co-chair of Digital Arabia Network. You'll definitely tell us a little bit more about how this connects to this to the initiative we are starting today, and why are we telling the region about Industry 4.0 and other concepts. Dr. Fisher is the deputy director at the management at the Deutsche Institute, German Institute for Textiles and Fabric Research in Denkendorf. And he will give us a lot of valuable insights about the Industry 4.0 and transformation specifically in the textiles industry. Mahdi Tqaya is CEO and founder of a consulting tech company with 20 years, that is existing 20 years now, with a background in engineering, logistics, in the GCC area in France. His company WeView is now focusing on digital transformation and mainly on topics like Industry 4.0. So very honored to have you here. Just to introduce myself and why I'm moderating this panel today. So I'm very happy to be part of the board, the steering committee of Digital Arabia Network as a steering committee member for Tunisia. And I'm also active in the startup scene in Tunisia, in the digital ecosystem in Tunisia, trying to build startups in areas like fintech, in areas like mobility and logistics, and also connect the Tunisian startup ecosystem to the world. So welcome everyone. Thank you for being so numerous joining us today. I'll start by, so Ayed, you are starting by giving us some insights about the Industry 4.0 in general.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. I was not sure. I thought that Dr. Fisher would be first, but
yeah, but I'm not seeing him, so I was like going for the secure,
Okay.
since I'm seeing you. So it's like, yeah, Dr. Fisher.
Always pays out to have a good camera in place. Yeah, thank you very much. So if I think that's perfectly fine. So I try to take the broader approach, and then Mr. Fisher can take it up from here. So if I could have the possibility to navigate in my slides or upload my presentation, that would be very good.
See the second. Yeah, the presentation is being uploaded. Perfect.
Yeah. So, yeah. Could I also navigate, please? Okay. So, yeah, I want to start talking with you about digital transformation. It's a bit of a wider topic than just Internet of Things, but we can come to that. And I must admit, I have been away from the region for some time, and my first encounter with the digitization and the Arab world was 2017, where I was invited to join the World Economic Forum in Amman. And I took this picture here, and I was very impressed because I think you can tell a lot of stories just by looking at this picture. So one of the interpretations I had was that this is the classical order of things, and the classical order of things invite young people to join them. And on the stage, which you cannot see on the picture, you had like 5 or 6 Jordanian startups, and they were presenting their proposals. So it was a very interesting presentation. You had all those dignified people sitting there, and all the young people on stage. And one interpretation one could give is that the old order wants to stay there and invites the youth to solve some of the problems. And I think that was a very interesting approach. The other interpretation you could have is that the old institutions do not want to go away, but they want to stay, and they assume that digitization is something that comes on top of the traditional institutions. And I think we can discuss whether this is feasible. But at least right now, it seems to be the way forward. So I want to share with you just a couple of minutes, what are we talking about? And one of the essential stories is, of course, automation. And the goal of automation is to create something like the lights out factory. The lights out factory is called that way because you could switch off the lights in the factories, and the robots there would still continue working, which is of course not true because the robots also need to see. But anyway, this is the picture that is being conveyed, and the idea is to create a factory that is more or less fully automated. Of course, we are not there yet, but I think it's worthwhile to understand what direction we are going to. So the ultimate goal of automation and also of digitization to some extent was not to support people doing their job, but it has been the goal of substituting people. I think that's a very, very important I would say conclusion one could draw. Of course, most of the people that are dealing with technology say we are building technology to support people. But when you look a little bit closer, then you find out that as long as you are interacting with the technology, it usually means that the technology is not being ready to be fully automated. So it still needs you for some time. So while the car is not self-driving, you still need to do some things there. And maybe in some years, then the car will take over. But in the meantime, you are contributing and you are filling the gap that the machines cannot fill right now. And you also, by your interaction with the machine, you are improving the learning curve of the machine. So as long as you drive in your car, we record all the data of your drive, and then this will improve the self-learning mechanism of the machine. So this is just one of the conclusions we can draw. So this is physical work. So we have the robots substituting work in the physical world. We have something very similar in the knowledge world, where we have the possibility now to with machine learning to automate well-structured, repetitive, and predictable activities. By repetitive, I mean that there are activities within an organization that are being repeated every day, every hour. And of course, these are very prone to machine learning because then you can automate them and you can use the data from the past interactions and upload it to the machine, and then the machine can take its own decisions. So this is something that most companies are working on right now, trying to figure out, what kind of activities can we support or can we augment with machine learning. Of course, this is a very tricky process. It's not an easy process. For most activities, you cannot buy commodity algorithms, and you cannot buy data, but you have to, at least right now, develop your own algorithms and collect your own and sort your own data, which is a terrible thing, because most organizations are using tons of different IT systems to store their data. But this is also the idea here. The idea is to more or less automate the process. Once we have understood that, then of course it becomes very clear what the effects for the Arab world, for instance, would be. And when you look at the first findings, and I'm showing you here a report issued, I think, last year by the ILO, then you can already see that there are some effects already on the labor force. Not so much in the developed countries because they have very complex activities which you cannot substitute with a machine right now. But the ILO is assuming that already in the developed world we are seeing the impact of this robot revolution, and there is a severe impact of about 14% on the workforce. And if you look, for instance, situation of India, which is quite interesting, then you can see that India has been a crisis now for 2 years, and India is being attacked from two sides, which is quite interesting. So they are, of course, automating their traditional industries like the automotive industries, and they are losing jobs there. But also India's IT industry, which has been focusing to a large extent on non-complex activities like call centers, this has been under attack by automation as well. For instance, using chatbots to substitute work on call centers. So here you have a country which has embarked on automation for quite some time, but still, because it has not moved quickly enough, is suffering from the effects of automation. And I think this is one of the messages I want to convey to you when you talk about automation or you talk about Internet of Things in the Arab world. Then it is, of course, it is about startups. Of course, it is about new industries. But when you look at the stability of societies and nations, you also have to consider what is going to happen to the traditional work, what is going to happen to the traditional factory. And for instance, looking at North Africa, the North African countries are impacted in a double way, so to say. So they have to automate in order to be competitive, but also some of their goods are not being used any longer in the West because they are being substituted as well by machines. So the Arab countries, especially the ones that have close connections to Europe, are suffering in a double way. So, for instance, factories that are producing for the European car industries, they will be suffering because car industry will shift to electronic self-driving cars, and then you need like 40 to 60% less spare parts for that. So this is the situation, and of course it's not an easy one. On the other side, you have new things coming up, like you have a thriving startup scene in the Arab world, and you have new companies, and those new companies are focusing very much on creating new brands, because brands still become important, and you also still like to buy goods that are produced by humans and not machines. And if you can tell a story behind the brand, then this is even more interesting. So we see some new industries coming up, also in North Africa and also in the other Arab countries. The question is then, can they substitute the job losses that will be happening in the traditional industries? And I think this is the critical discussion we should be having. The other topic is that in parallel to this automation and digitization, we have platforms coming up, and platforms are just an intermediary between the business and the consumer, and also an intermediary between different factories. That's what is actually called Internet of Things. So when you look at the B2C side, business to customer, then you can see you have the traditional transaction platforms, mainly coming from the West and also from China to some extent, and they are more or less occupying the space between the producer and the customer. So whenever you produce something, you have to go through these platforms. And also, there are some platforms which you can use for innovation, like Android and what's Mozilla, whatever. And they are also most of them are based in the West. So whenever you want to sell something or you want to innovate to some extent, you have to go more or less to those existing platforms, and that of course is a huge issue because what those platforms do to you is they collect all the data, and they sometimes also want to block you from your customer. And if you look at Amazon, that's an interesting story. Once Amazon learns enough about your customers, then Amazon will produce the same goods. So what Amazon is doing, it's analyzing the sales, and if Amazon sees that there's a product selling really well, then Amazon will start producing this good, and then you as a supplier will be suffering from it. So for Arab countries, I think this is a tough situation because there are no Arab platforms. One can maybe discuss the development of smaller, very specific Arab platforms that deal with the special situation in certain countries. But this is a minority story up till now. Of course, then there's the on the right side of the slide, you see business to business. You can see also platforms, and for instance, a platform coming from Siemens called MindSphere is a very good example. And these platforms are trying to connect machines of different industries, robots from different industries. And if you are not part of this part of these platforms, then you cannot join projects, for instance. So, for instance, just imagine if you're an architect and you want to contribute to building to a project of an office tower, and all the planning of the tower will be done on MindSphere. Then and you are not part of MindSphere because you don't have the interface or you have not uploaded all the required documents. Then you are not part of the game. So there is another, I would say, hurdle for Arab institutions, because they of course they are not part of this industry 4.0 game. Of course, if it would be advisable for Arab countries to have some platforms, at least on the national, or even more prudent on a regional level. For instance, when you look what China is doing, China is using its platforms to help small communities also on the rural side to distribute and market their goods. So if you don't have access to those platforms, then this is a big issue for you. And there have been discussions about creating Arab platforms. And here I have this interview, I think, about creating an Arab fashion platform that could create jobs for 20 million people. I have not seen whether this has been going to any direction, but at least I think the idea was very interesting. However, what is happening is, as soon as there are any Arab startups or platforms becoming so successful, they are being sucked up by the big platforms. And I think I was in Amman a year ago, and everybody was very excited because at that time El Souk was being bought up by Amazon, and I think last year it was Kareem, the mobility platform, that was being bought up. But I think this is, of course, that's a good story for the Arab entrepreneurs. But mind you, just have a look at this press release from Amazon. Amazon bought up El Souk, and now they are throwing away the brand, and they are using Amazon brand also in the Middle East. And if you, I don't know whether you can read it, but the third bullet point in the press release says one of the positive aspects of having this platform is that America can sell more goods in the Middle East. So if you are a traditional Arab company or a small and medium-sized company, and you don't have access to this kind of platform, and you're not being supported by anybody, like Amazon is supporting American companies, then of course you are not in a very good competitive situation. So what are the obvious impacts of digitization to the Arab world? So one is that on the positive side, Arab producers have much easier access to knowledge, blueprints, and also production means. On the other hand, machine learning will reduce outsourcing possibilities for Arab economies, right? So When you have machines and robots doing all the work, then you need to outsource less to other countries. And that, again, is probably specifically important for the North African Arab countries. The question is then, can a thriving IT industry or can a thriving startup industry compensate? I think, from my opinion, if you don't have classical industries where lots of people are working and you are losing that, then you're having big problems. Last point then, of course, as mentioned, global platforms will reign into the Arab world, enforcing the choice to become suppliers or owners of platforms. As I said before, I don't know if there are any meaningful Arab platforms right now. I would hope that there would be some. Interesting enough is that especially the richer Arab countries are, via the company SoftBank, are shareholders of those international platforms like Amazon, Google, etc. But they're not using it to support the local industry because they have to follow the shareholder kind of policies that are in place there. So what I want to share in the last couple of minutes is, what could that mean for the industries? And maybe just two. I had mentioned before textile industries, and maybe Mr. Fischer afterwards will tell more about that. But of course, also robots and machine learning will probably reign into the textile industries. Maybe we have things like sew bots, robots that can print or that can sew complex textiles. And once these are in place, then of course this would mean that there will be less outsourcing opportunities for low-wage countries, for instance, like Egypt, Algeria, other countries. And then maybe besides low wages, other opportunities will become more important, like speed. So I think the Turkish textile industry is very impressive because they can replicate any kind of clothes within 24, 48 hours and producing it and shipping it somewhere. So when you have the Oscars nomination gala and you see a famous actress with a dress, 48 hours later you can buy the dress from a Turkish supplier. So not wages, but speed becomes more important. Automotive, as I mentioned before, there are some countries, especially again in North Africa, that are to some extent dependent as being suppliers to the European car industries. And I think they need to really watch out what is going to happen to the car industry in Europe. Because if that changes, and it is changing, that would mean that the automotive industry is changing as well. And maybe here I brought the example of Austria. Austria, although being a developed country, is very much dependent on the German car industry. And what happened is that they switched their suppliers to really become technological innovators. So right now, some of the Austrian car suppliers are producing cars and producing innovations. So they are not focusing so much on low wages, but are focusing on innovation. So maybe that could be something. Finally, what kind of scenarios are there thinkable for the Arab world? Well, of course, the most positive one would be some kind of digital integration, wholesale kind of approach where the entire country is being transformed within a short kind of time from the classical traditional status to the new modern one, and without too much unemployment and without too much political unrest. I think this is of course very desirable, but I think it's not too likely. It's not too likely. What will rather happen is some kind of selective digitization. So we see that digital transformation will be taking place successfully in some very enclosed geographical areas, some kind of hubs that could be cities or that could be specific areas within cities. And within those specified areas, digitization will happen. And those areas, those hubs will be connected to other hubs in the world. And they will create some kind of virtual production state that has, of course, links to the nation state, but on a very limited scale. So I think this is a very likely scenario, and we can see the same in Europe. 2 days ago, there was a report published that economic activity within Europe will mainly take place within 40 to 45 different centers. and there will be areas in Europe where there will be no activities or declining activities. So we probably have a very similar situation, and that has to do with the fact that digitization does not create equality, right? It requires specific skills. It requires specific kind of education, and that is not for everybody, right? So there will be some kind of elite or some kind of creative class that will be more important, at least now in the transformation phase, and that for the nation state will mean a great struggle. Finally, I will show you some examples of digital strategies that I have come through. One is the Tunisian one, which I still find very exciting. So we did that. I don't know whether it worked or not, or whether the political class has taken it up. But just to give you an idea on what our thinking was, so we were taking the traditional industries of Tunisia, and then we thought, where's the biggest employment impact? Where's the industry linkages? What is the export capability of those industries? And then we thought, okay, what can we do to increase employability? And then we were thinking of supporting those industries with pilot projects. So this is a approach that is taking place looking at the different industries. There are other approaches as well. One is from South Africa. And South Africa is not looking at industries, but looking at technologies and business models and trying to figure out, what kind of business models can be used. For instance, they are focusing on labor-absorbing platforms. That's what we call crowdworking. They also want to be a kind of technology hub, and they want to focus on exportable traded services, mainly in the IT area. So they are not looking so much at the traditional industries. They are more or less leaving it behind, but focusing on the new technologies. Very much so as India. India is focusing on machine learning. And what you can see here is a drawn up kind of value chain where the Indian companies are advised to cooperate to create different libraries of algorithms and to create exportable data sets that can be used on the market. And the Indian state will do everything possible for Indian companies to be part of this artificial intelligence kind of offensive. Again, here, not so much looking at industries, but looking at technologies and trying to make the best out of technologies. Finally, this is the European Union, of course, trying to have another approach. And here we have a political one. The approach here is that politics defines society kind of goals like citizens' health and well-being, and out of those challenges, missions are created, like for instance decreasing the burden of dementia, and then innovative technologies and industries are being employed in order to implement this kind of goal. So that's a kind of a political set scenario. So as you can see, very different scenarios in different countries. Some of them focusing on industries, some of them are focusing on technology, and some of them are trying to figure out, how can we employ technology in order to achieve the goals of the society. And I think most of the Arab countries are also having some kind of papers or embarking on papers, and it would be interesting to see what is going to happen next. And again, I'm not so much worried, although this might sound as a paradox, I'm not so much worried about the IT industry or the startups. I'm more worried about what will happen to the traditional industries, because this is where 95% of the people are employed. So finally, and thank you for your patience, what could be some kind of strategies for the Arab world? And again, as I said before, I think it would be very interesting to combine startups and traditional industries. How can traditional industry learn? What can they learn from startups? Vice versa, what can startups learn from traditional industry? For instance, when you look at banking. Also, I think it would be very interesting also for the Arab universities and younger people. How can they connect to the traditional company or to the traditional factory? And here we see platforms like crowdworking that are enabling young people to participate also in the traditional industry. And I think that could be an interesting approach. Open educational resources. I think the university is not broken, but it's useless in this context. It has not been supporting this transformation at all, because it's stuck to its traditional institutions. And here I think we need to approach, and we need a new approach. And the approach is, how can you download the things you need to learn very quickly and free of costs? And that's probably more important than going to university. And of course, the digitization of the public processes, also the state and the administration needs to follow this kind of process. And of course, everybody who had experience with the Arab administration knows that there is ample of space there. Social policy, I think this is something which has been neglected for some time. I think whatever will happen in the near future, it will, and I think it's safe to say, it will lead to very difficult social situations. And you do need a very strong social policy in place to protect the people that are losing their jobs and help them to find new ones. And right now, of course, because of lack of funds, social policy and all the Arab countries, except for the Gulf countries, is very weak. And just imagine what will happen if 200,000 people in the Egyptian textile industries would lose their jobs in the next couple of years. So what are you going to do? And finally, of course, as mentioned before, the topic of regional platforms, participatory platforms. It would be really good to have Arab regional platforms that can compete with the Western ones and the Chinese ones. If that doesn't happen, we will all be providers or suppliers of Chinese or American platforms. By the way, there are not many European platforms either. So it's not a unique Arab problem. It's a problem that countries like China and America have platforms and the rest of the world doesn't. So I hope I was somehow structured and this was somehow interesting for you. And I thank you for your patience and your interest. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Ayed. So this was an amazing wake-up call, actually, for I hope for all the Arab countries, and it was like shaking our beliefs and all the paradigms regarding the relationship between young and old, the old institutions, the platforms, that we are actually not part of the game. How do we become part of the game? We were actually so happy about Souq and Karim. So now we understand that the game is actually much bigger. So I have actually plenty of questions for you. But in the meanwhile, before we come to the questions and interactions, I'll let our audience digest all this content and move to Dr. Fischer, who is trying to upload a presentation or maybe connecting to the video. Welcome, Dr. Fischer. We hope that you have managed to connect properly and that everything is working all right.
Hello. Hello. Did you hear me, Amel?
Yes.
So yeah, I'm with Dr. Fischer from online call, so he can handle it from the.
Brilliant. So okay, so you'll manage the presentation and the access to the video.
Sure.
Brilliant. So we hand over to you, Walid and Dr. Fischer, to give us insights about the Industry 4.0 seen from the German perspective, knowing that this is a brand or a name. Industry 4.0 is kind of invented in Germany. So please share with us some insights about the German touch when it comes to Industry 4.0 with a specific focus on textiles. And I think this is an industry that is very important, very relevant for Arab countries, for instance, because it accounts for a lot of jobs. It accounts for a lot of exports in the region. It is totally integrated in global value chains, and then it's kind of probably at risk today because we are seeing that the textiles industry in countries like Tunisia, like Egypt, are being endangered, that they're losing footprint. So, and many of the owners of these industries are not really getting why. So maybe the challenges are much bigger than the local challenges. So, Dr. Fischer, tell us more about this industry. We are so happy to have you here.
Okay. Hello and welcome to the next session. And first of all, I'm really, really sorry for the inconvenience that you cannot see me at the moment, and that my audio is coming indirectly via wallet because our firewall is blocking audio and video. I can see the session, but it's blocking audio and video. And this is an example that also public research has to be more agile and to be more open towards these new digital technologies. So also research has this problem to be ready for the future and ready for Industry 4.0. My name is Thomas Fischer. I'm working in Denkendorf. This is close to Stuttgart in Germany, and we are Europe's largest textile research organization. And on the next slide, please. Yes, you see that we have a big umbrella for everything that starts from the chemistry and from the fiber that goes to all the modern machinery and textile processing, up to everything that is related to retail, to marketing, to virtual reality, to digital transformation of textile products. And we also have a production company that is producing medical textiles. This is our technology transfer hub. So we are working not only in clothing and retail, but we're also working on technical textile, medical textiles, as you will see in a minute. I will just give you some pictures that you have a little bit an impression for you what we are doing here in Denkendorf and what textile can be in the future, because like 50 years ago in Germany, textile was also clothing only, and in the last 50 years we saw a big change towards also technical textiles and technical applications. Next slide, please. Yes, just to give you some basic information, we are about 300 people working here. So it's a large institute. And we are funded half by public research projects, which we have to apply for, and basically half by direct contact research with industry. Industry includes textile machinery producers, textile industry, spinning companies, weaving, knitting, everything, but also a lot of final users, like in the building area, in the construction area, in the technical textile area, in the medical area, a lot of different companies that use textile products in their final products. We have a lot of space, so we have need for making testing, not only on a laboratory scale, but also going into pilot production and real production. We have a lot of partners from public and we focus on small and medium companies. We are not big only. We are focusing on the small companies. We understand the needs of small companies in Germany, in Europe, but also outside of Europe. So we can also set up small projects, and we look for continuously for new partners in research projects. We also have testing and persistent root cause analysis and all the testing services for all types of textiles. Next slide, please. Here are our research fields, and you can see that we really start from the high performance fibers and yarns from the beginning. Then we go to functionalization, finishing of textiles. A big part is fiber composites and lightweight design, carbon fibers. We also produce carbon fibers. A big area is smart textiles. You can integrate a lot of function. Textiles are sensors that you can put in any type of product. We have smart textiles that control and check the vital parameters of workers, for example, that are integrated in protective clothes. We have medical textiles that are replacements for all types you need in your human body, not only when you get an operation, you are you need a thread, but it's all types of medical things, artificial blood containers, everything. And finally, and this is what our group is standing for, and what I will present a bit in more detail, what means Industry 4.0 for textiles, or what is Textile 4.0? What are the basic ideas, the basic principles? The textile industry is undergoing this fourth industrial revolution, and what are the remaining results and the consequences for the industry? Next slide, please. Here you see some areas that we are working in the way of digitalization. You will find some more details later on. We have multiple applications. We use pads and virtual reality, for example, for virtual collection meetings, or for virtual shopping also as a additional way of shopping. In the shop, you don't have all the physical samples or all the physical garments, but you can, for example, try on a real jeans, and with the glasses, you can add different types of shirts and create your own look, partly virtual, partly real. But it also helps when you do product development and all the other stuff. We also have a digital workflow from the scanning to the knitting machine. I will show you later. Also very important is the new digitalization in terms of from the design to the production. So we can do 3D design on the machine, on the computer, and then create a file that is directly sent to the printing and cutting. So we have a digital integrated workflow. And this is really important because only if you have a digital workflow, you get all the data you need for the artificial intelligence applications. And last but not least, we also sustainability is one of the mega trends, and is one of the hot topics that is really of high importance for customers all over the world, and it will be growing definitely. So we have models and methodologies to calculate not only the cost, but also, for example, the CO2 emission of a t-shirt that is produced in our microfactory, but also that is produced in a global supply chain. This is really important to understand all the processes and to do the CO2 calculation. Next slide, please. So, what means Industry 4.0? I have five main topics. First, I will talk a little bit about digital engineering. What does it mean, digital engineering? Then I will show you some examples, what we can do with data, how we collect data, what means big data, and how we can apply artificial intelligence. Then I will show you just one example about the sustainability thing. Another topic where we can use artificial augmented reality and virtual reality is also learning, bringing knowledge to the people, empower the people to really be able to work in this digital environment. And finally, it is important to have the right networks and to have the right business models in place, because as also my pre-speaker mentioned, there will be platforms, there will be new channels. Amazon is selling its own clothes, its own brand. Everything will change a little bit, and we all need to be really alert to find the right new opportunities. And finally, I would like to show you a video of digital microfactory. This is an implementation of our digital production line that was presented in Technik Steel Text Process 2019. And that shows a little bit, maybe some of you have been there, and that shows a little bit how these digital things are already working now if you have the right concept and machine. Okay, let's start with the digital engineering and the next slide. What means digital engineering? Digital engineering means that we connect digitally the process from the engineering, from the design, the design center on the left side. So you can do your 2D and 3D design. You can include an avatar, for example. You can include a general avatar, but you can also use a body scanner and include a personal avatar if you want to make garments that fit only one person, that are really personalized, or that are special designs, special colors, whatever you want to do on an individual. Everything that is digital will be digital, and everything that is digital can be personalized and individualized. This is the main paradigm we have to understand. Everything will be digital, and digital means personalization. And from this cuts stage, information, all cutting information, all the printing information directly to a nice printing machines. And textile printing is not brand new anymore, but it's a real common technology now. So we can print directly on cotton, on mixed cotton, on polyester, on everything. Depending, we can either use sublimation or direct printing, and we are working on inks here in Denkendorf to really have the right inks. So you can print basically everything now in the right colors. And this is, if you use a wire 5 meters, 2 meters, you can print your dress only one time, but you can also print it more often. And you can individualize, every print can be different, of course. Then the fabric is, of course, goes to the heat transfer, which is not shown here, but then it's sent to the cutter, and also the cutter gets the full information. We have a QR code on the printed fabric, and also it gets the file, so the cutter knows what he has to cut in principle. The cutter has also a camera integrated, so it looks for the QR code, it looks for the printing marks, and it knows exactly what to cut. This is fully automated. The cutter exactly knows what to do, and all the pieces are cut automatically. And even the assembling cannot be automated yet, but also the sewing machines get the information about the settings of the sewing machine. For example, the tension of the thread or whatever, the settings, they are automatically transferred to the sewing machine, so that the operator at the sewing machine knows automatically how to sew polyester versus cotton versus any mixed thing. And then we can, if we assemble this, we have an individualized product that was designed on the computer and almost fully produced digitally. This is what we understand as simulate, print, and cut. And this is important not only for final products, but also very important for product design. Production, the small is in your team. You can either produce them if you have a workshop, or you can just see them as a cut and 2D, 3D design in the virtual environment, and then be much, much quicker and much, much preciser in your product development. Okay, next slide, please. This is another process for digital engineering. This is for knitting. And for knitting, we have a similar process that starts on the upper left, again with a scan of your foot. We can scan your foot if you want individualized shoes. Then the scan is transferred into a 3D model, and this model is undergoing a certain number of algorithms. We develop these algorithms, the segmentation and the sampling. And finally, we create automatically, and this is on the right side, we automatically create an individualized knitting pattern. This individualized knitting pattern represents this foot that has been scanned before, and then it's coded and with Stoll knitting machines and colorized with the Stoll design, so you can add any color you like, and then you knit exactly the shoe that fits to the foot that you have scanned above. So this is also a way of digital engineering, where we provide the code, we provide the algorithms, we provide all the workflow, where you can start with the scan and have your individualized shoes. Next slide, please. Then, if you look at big data and AI, what are we doing? Actually, what is the goal? And there are a number of applications. If you look, there's data from sensors, there's data from machines. Nowadays, everybody is doing some collection of data. And if you put the data in the right environment, you can do a lot of things. For example, in knitting, we collect a lot of data and are able to do some predictive maintenance, where we say, okay, probably the needles of the knitting machine need to be changed within the next weeks. We can also measure the knitting process and give some indication for the quality, for example. We can do defect analysis. We can do root cause analysis. We can see if the yarn is bad and if there are some settings have to be adapted. But also, and this is another application of AI, we use neural networks to do a morphological classification of human bodies. As you can see on the little picture on the right side, we have the avatars and the scans, and we developed a classification scheme, because not size 42 or 48 does not mean that all persons that are size 48 are the same. So we are able to do with artificial intelligence a morphological classification that is telling you it works triangle, or you have different hip shape or different shoulder slopes. So this is also giving a valuable input for garment development. Next slide, please. This is the carbon footprint model I showed you in the beginning. I promised you in the beginning. This is related to our micro factory. So we start with the design on the left side, then we have the color management, and these are processes that need only electricity, as you can see on the arrows above this, the electricity arrow. And as soon as we go into the real production on the printer, we have electricity. We also have transfer paper that has a certain CO2 equivalent. We have the ink that also has a certain amount of embedded CO2 and energy. Then we go to the printing device, we print. Then we go to the calendar, and in terms we do sublimation print, we need the tissue, the paper. That has a lot of embodied CO2. This is the calendering process. And afterwards, we go to the cutting process, and there we start already to have some waste. The first waste flow is the transfer paper, that is waste. And this has to be calculated as well. Otherwise, it's not real what you're doing. You really need to have the waste flows, otherwise you're cheating. Then the cutter needs compressed air also as energy, plus electricity. And the cutter also has some waste depending on how perfectly you do the placement. And then we have the additional parts like buttons, rope, zippers, everything. We also have compressed air, so the confection island from Yuki. So we can finally calculate that one polo shirt developed or produced in our microfactory has the equivalent of 2.88 kilograms CO2. And if you imagine a global supply chain, this will go up dramatically because of all the transportation. On the other hand, you have maybe more professional and more large-scale production processes that are a little bit better, but in this way you can compare different supply chains and different alternatives and can also communicate it to your customers. See, I'm producing regionally in all the process steps, I have less transportation, so I have a better CO2 equivalent as a result. And of course, we also include the material flows, we also include the cost, so we have a comprehensive model to understand also the digital processes. And this is really important if you want to have a digitalization, a digital economy. You need to measure, you need to understand what are the benefits, what is better, what is worse. Okay, next slide, please. This is doing learning and artificial or augmented reality. We developed a number of learning solutions because also the people need to change. The workers, they need to understand the digital technologies. They need to work with it. There's a change in the workforce, and not all the guys in the textile industry are 25 years old and have a degree in computer science, so they need to understand what they have to do, and they need to understand if they have a big data application, what they need. So we created a number of collaborative workspaces. We created e-learning courses. We created precision teaching on the spot, that you can understand really with the computer simulation what is an error in the fabric, what is not an error in the fabric. And also for new industries that use, for example, lightweight carbon-based fiber materials, they need to understand how this works. Because if they used to put in aluminium in the car for 30 years, they know exactly the parameters of aluminium, but they don't understand the parameters of carbon-based, carbon-reinforced product. So they need to understand how this works and what are the parameters of this. So we need to bring a lot of knowledge to this industry, also in other industry, and learning and augmented reality and virtual reality and e-learning and all this is a huge help. Next slide, please. Finally, you need to have the right business models. How much do you charge for such a T-shirt that is produced in a micro factory? What is it worth? How does it work? Because you sell it only one time. Maybe it's an individual product, maybe, and how much what is the business model? And therefore, we need to understand the business models of Industry 4.0, the portals, the platforms, as my speaker before already mentioned. And maybe there's also a sharing economy. Maybe there are platforms for sharing. Maybe there are design makerspaces. If you have online somebody who designs your dress, how much do you charge him? How much do you pay him? Is it 30 minutes for the idea making, 30 minutes for the pattern making, 30 minutes for the colorization? How much do you pay these people? What is the business model? Who makes the money? If you talk about lot size one, if you talk about personalized products. This is not something you sell, because you first sell and then you produce. So you have a different model, a different business model. And we had a number of European projects where people, basically 5 different scenarios for the future, and I guess they will also apply for the African and Arabian area. First is the interconnected local value chain, where you have everything in a regional environment. You have little transport, you have companies that work together in local clusters and create local products. The opposite is the thing we have now, is global network value creation. The design is made in Europe, the cotton comes from Egypt, the spinning is done in Far East, and the confection is done somewhere else, and you have a lot of shipping around the world. Third one is about products and service providers, where we have also digital services in addition to the real products, where we so this is what we call hybrid products, where we have also digital information and digital parts of the product. Finally, the scenario 4 is sustainable open manufacturing and open innovation, where everybody can contribute, where you have networks of designers, networks of people who have small machines that can provide only maybe 50 towels or 50 shirts, but they are unique and they are created by a community, open community in the internet. They want to make special shirts for their soccer team. They want to make special shirts for a wedding party or for a school or something. And they hire a designer, they hire a small company, they bring together a network. And this is what we call open innovation value chains. And finally, there's this made-to-measure thing, where the consumer exactly specifies what she or he wants, what he needs or she needs. Maybe there's a scanning involved. There's we have special people with special needs, obese people or slim people that have special bodies, and each body is unique, and therefore each body deserves a made-to-measure application. But you need to provide the supply chains where you can understand how to produce and how to create such individual products. These are the business models. Next slide. Oops. Sorry, go back, please. There's a link missing. There's one slide missing with the link. I did.
I think there was a slide at the beginning with a link. Probably is that.
Provided to. And in the meantime, you can, of course, ask me any questions, preferably in the chat. You can chat, you can text me in the chat, and I will try to answer all the questions. But just give me 2 minutes, and I will try to give you the link.
Brilliant. So maybe in the meanwhile, unless you figure it out very quickly, I will, Walid, if you might go to the second slide. I think I remember having seen a link over there. Probably it's the right link. So,
okay. For listening, I hope you could understand me. I have no sound feedback, but I really hope it worked. And thanks to Walid for all the technical support. We had a little bit of a crisis because my firewall did not allow any video and audio signal. But I hope that this way we were able to make it.
Yeah, thanks. Brilliant.
Thank you. I'm ready for any types of questions and answers. Let me check in the public chat. Okay.
Yeah, brilliant. So thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you, Dr. Fischer, about all these insights. It was acoustically clear to me, at least. And thank you, Walid, for the brilliant crisis management. So we were able to get some shockingly interesting insights, but also some eye openers. And I think individual, textile organizations in the Arab countries should really have a look at what's happening in there and all the business models that are developing in the world. What kind of new positioning we could seek as countries when it comes to global textiles value chains. And all these insights can be very precious for re-strategizing, repositioning. So thank you so much again for all these insights. So we'll definitely come back before the last contribution, after the last contribution with questions from the audience. Again, to the audience, do not hesitate to ask questions in the chat. And in the meanwhile, I'd kindly invite Mahdi Tqaya, who is the CEO of WeView, a tech company, IT and consulting company in Tunisia, focusing on digital transformation, on Industry 4.0, who can share insights about what's going on in Tunisia from the Industry 4.0 perspective. Is the transformation happening? Is there an awareness about all what has been discussed, knowing that on the international cooperation side, you'll have a GIZ coming with a massive initiative connecting SMEs with innovators, with startups, Industry 4.0. So the topic is being discussed and being very big. So how about the reality of things? How is transformation happening in Tunisia, for instance? Mahdi.
Thank you very much, Amel. So I'll give you exactly what Amel mentioned. I'll give you I'll share with you our experience in Tunisia and out of Tunisia in terms of projects delivered in this part of the world.
Maybe with Sam, Mahdi, if you manage to put it on.
Okay. So is it working?
Coming. I think you have to click share twice.
Is it coming?
No, we can't see you yet, but yeah, now it's coming. Now it's coming. Brilliant. Okay. Yeah.
So
thank you.
First of all, share with you, in fact, what is the tech sector in Tunisia, and prior to that, share with you and present to you who is WeView. So WeView is a group of companies created in 1998. Back at that time, in 1998, Tunisia was known mainly for the textile industry and the tourism, essentially. And it was strange to establish a tech company here in Tunisia. but we did it, and we started at that time. We were among the very few companies operating out of Tunisia in the tech sector. We are now 350 engineers with an main office in Tunisia, with a branch in Paris, with the branch in Dubai, a branch in Algiers, and a branch in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. So most of the staff are in Tunis and Paris, and most of our revenue is generated with European companies. 85% of our revenue is generated with French or German companies, either here locally or in Europe, or as well in projects in Africa and Asia. So this is very important. So it means 15% of our revenue is generated locally. So it's really nothing, in fact, compared to the size of the company and compared to a company like ours, which needs a domestic market to grow. So basically, our domestic market moved to being Tunisian market to European markets, and we established all our experiences, our expertise have been developed with European companies. We have several Industry 4.0, or let's say supply chain 4.0 experiences with European companies, and this is what helps us find use cases to grow the business and structure the business in the way it is today. We deliver consulting services, digital solutions, and IT solutions. We deliver this on a project basis as well as on co-innovation basis for clients, as we a department called Review Labs. We together our engineers and experts and the engineers and experts of our clients, specifically on use cases, innovation use cases. What we have done as well in the last 2 years, we co-founded with Amal. We wanted to go beyond this point, and we co-founded a startup studio focusing again on the areas where we are involved, which are mainly industry and supply chain. And the idea was to bring another arm in terms of developing Industry 4.0 and supply chain 4.0 initiatives through establishing and helping startups to grow using the backbone and the platform, technical platform of Review. So this is generally speaking about Review and the ecosystem, and this initiative of willing to push innovation through internal innovation, co-innovation with the client, as well as innovation through the establishment of startups directly with the clients or directly to the market. So, as I said, we created this company in 1998, so more than 20 years ago. At that time, Tunisia was known for being a beach destination, was known for being as well a destination where we can produce cheap textile goods, but not really a tech destination. Today, Tunisia, the tech sector in Tunisia represents more than 50, well, I can say between, some would say 50 to 60,000 employees, directly and indirectly. We have 9,000 graduates, IT graduates per year, engineers and non-engineers, and it's becoming a significant sector in the country. It's becoming a sector which is generating, I think, enough income or as much income as the tourism sector. So we are now, we can say that the idea of Tunisia being a sunny and a tourism destination can switch slowly to being a tech destination. And this is what we want as a sector, and this is where we are what we are after. So, however, for a sector like ours, what we need to be able to develop initiatives, especially when we talk about Industry 4.0, what we need use cases. We need use cases, we need clients, we need industry leaders who believe in that and want to invest into these initiatives. And this is not yet there today. We feel much more the sense of urgency with our European clients. I mean, it's somehow in Europe, we need to go there. We need to invest. We need to try. We need to test. Why? Because our future as a company depends on the kind of investment and innovation we do today. This is not yet there in Tunisia. However, we as a company and being exposed to the industry here, we believe that it is urgent. Why is it urgent? Because as you rightly mentioned, Dr. Fisher and Dr. Ayad earlier, the world is moving, the market is moving, and somehow we cannot afford to be a low-cost country anymore. We need to move to something different and something what we need to reinvent as a country, as an industry. And we start seeing this with our clients. Especially in the operating in the automotive sector and the aerospace sector, because it's just to remind you, Tunisia industry sector is composed of, let's say, two different sectors. One is the all the industries outsourced in Tunisia, and mainly in the textile, automotive, and aerospace, which represent a sizable piece of our industry, and the local domestic industry, which is somehow producing all the consumer goods, the food industry, construction sector, etc. If you look at the specifically automotive and aerospace industry, there is a pressure coming from the clients, coming from the car manufacturers, pushing the industry, the local industries, to produce differently. Not necessarily for quality, for cost reasons, but for quality reasons, for compliance reasons, for efficiency reasons, etc. So there we can feel that there is more and more awareness, and in the last 2 years we have seen more clients, more local clients, asking for and interested in exploring initiatives, Industry 4.0, or let's say innovation initiative opportunities with them. And we can see it, and something which is growing and which somehow building over the last 2 to 3 years. We can see it as well through several sets of events that has been arranged and monitored by GIZ for the last years. We have arranged together, in fact, a large event in Tunis on the challenges of the future challenges of the industry. So we can clearly see that people are interested, but we don't see clear projects coming out of the so I think the interest is building, the capabilities, the IT sector is there, the expertise there. I think we need that this light needs to switch off the light, and we need probably to have something happening in order to see more and more initiatives happening in the country. And one of the missing links into this all this ecosystem is the funding, and I think this is one subject where GIZ is working. So we need I can see in the future some potential, but we still need to push a little bit more. So as I said, the challenges of the Industry 4.0 in Tunisia are the awareness, the preparedness of the market, the size of the market, because there's another factor. In fact, the market is small, and whenever you develop something, you need to develop for a sizable market. So we necessarily, as a company, as a startup, for the startups that we are supporting through BetaCube, through the startup studio, when we look at an initiative, we look at use cases in Tunisia, but we always have in the back of our mind the need of expanding beyond Tunisia. We need to expand to the European market, to the Middle Eastern market, or to the African market. But then we need to test, try, prototype locally, and think globally when we have to build a business. And this is where we are with our startups today. So, as I said, so the size of the market, the funding, the awareness, preparedness, but it's building, it's getting there, not as quickly as we would like, but it's getting there. The other segment of the industry is the local industry, the consumer goods and the fast-moving and the food industry. There is as well more and more awareness in those industries, but for other reasons. For one of the reasons being the efficiency, the cost reduction, and mainly in the energy saving initiatives. And there is more and more appetite of these companies into that area. And again, we are there very small in terms of initiatives. So, I mean, the potential is there, the capabilities are there, but we need to have the industry sector to be more keen into starting and investing into this area. Now, there was, just maybe to conclude, there was one remark mentioned earlier about the impact on employment and unemployment, and that was definitely a question that has been raised by one of the leaders of one of the largest automotive sector companies in Tunisia, private Tunisian automotive sector. One of his questions when I discussed with him about the Industry 4.0 initiatives, he's saying, if I move into that direction, if I invest in technology, what will remain in my business? My business is based on those jobs, low-cost salaries. I mean, but then this is really wrong as a question, because in fact, the idea is really, it's not about destroying a business, but moving to a different business. Moving from a country where we have workers on the production chain to probably more and more tech experts, more and more tech capabilities. And we have proven as a country to be able to develop these capabilities. I believe that Industry 4.0, personally, is a great opportunity for this country, which has great assets to succeed in that area. And what we need to have a push. We need to have these leaders to be convinced, these leaders to be ready to move, these leaders to invest and probably help them into that direction. And this is what we need. So this is maybe to summarize what I wanted to say, and I'll be very glad and happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mehdi. So I really see that it's building, but it has to go faster. It's about finding the way to accelerate the process of raising awareness and preparing the ingredients for this to happen, including the funding, the preparedness, the size, working on the size of the market or connectedness with other markets. So I really see the same ingredient coming back again in all your contributions, that it's really about repositioning the role of the Arab markets, the Arab countries, when it comes to contributing to the global value chains, contributing to new business models, contributing to a world where it's more going towards personalization than outsourcing bulk production items. So opening the floor to questions. So we have, so we'll definitely prioritize questions from the audience, even though I have tons of questions to our panelists. So we have Saha asking about she would like to share a view from Tunisia as a member of the TextMed Alliance project. So have a look at the link she has shared in the chat if you're interested in projects that are funded by the European Union when it comes to textiles. Maybe quick question. We have only 7 minutes left in our discussion. Maybe quick question per contributor, per panelist. So it was a striking statement to me, Professor Ayad Al-Ani, about when you were speaking about Arab countries seeing hurdles in this new world where the paradigms are changing, and that them are not actually part of the game, since they don't have, since they are not part of the big platforms, or at least they are mere consumers, or they are just sharing their data. And the strategy might to be developing own regional platforms that are meaningful enough. So what is meaningful, and does it make, is the Arab world big enough to share, to build actually this type of platforms?
Yeah, definitely. I think the Arab world is big enough. The problem that is haunting the Arab world since I don't know how many years is that it's so much suffering from this nationalistic view. And the borders between the Arab countries are sometimes more difficult to cross than between Arab countries in Europe. And I think to be successful in the digital world, one has to take a regional cooperation back into focus again. And that would mean that Arab countries would have to cooperate much, much closer than before. Because, for instance, countries like Tunisia have been very successful in the democratic transformation. But it's a small country. It's a very small market. It has the sea on two sides, and it has closed borders on other two sides. So how on earth can a country like Tunisia be successful? And that has nothing to do with the great effort by the Tunisian people. It's just very, very difficult. And so I would hope that. At least on the regional level, we can see some kind of cooperation between companies, between actors, between entrepreneurs. Because right now, most of the Arab entrepreneurs, at least the ones I know, if they want to cooperate, they are more looking into Europe, but not so much to other Arab countries. So I think that would be very beneficial if at least there would be some kind of I would say reunification of the Arab world in the cyberspace. I'm not talking about borders and things like that, but I think those borders are really becoming a problem. And I also live in Austria, so it's a very small European country, and Austria was doing very, very bad before it joined the European Union. Why is that? Because it's a very small country. It had a small market. It was difficult to export goods and things like that. So I think. The closed borders don't match the digital sphere very well. So I think we have to find ways to support the actors, bring them together, support them with funding, as mentioned by the speaker from Tunisia, which is always a problem. But if everybody just remains by him or herself, and if every country just tries to figure out what to do, then I think it will not be efficient, and it will be too late. It will be too late. So then the conclusion would be let's try to save as many as possible, and try to figure out what could be technology hubs in the Arab world, and try to connect these with other hubs in the world. So if we cannot transform the entire nation, then maybe we can find a spot, or we can find an industry, or maybe we can find skills that can be connected to the global world. I think this is the probably right now it's not very satisfactory, but I see that as probably the most prudent strategy right now.
And considering your hypothesis about selective digitalization, maybe this is the way we should go. And hopefully integration in the cyber world can work smoother and faster because we don't have any time to lose anymore. So thank you very much, Dr. Ayed, Professor Ayed. So maybe to you, Dr. Fischer, a question about the positioning of the Arab world in this value chain, in the textiles value chain. So we see that when it comes to digital engineering, the whole process looks like the manufacturer has to master the whole process from end to end. If you and outsourcing parts of the process is going to be a decision, a balancing between carbon emissions and saving money on the production. So the question is. Do we as Arab countries, not that far away from Europe, have any potential and future in terms of collaboration in the textile field? Where do you see a positioning of Arab countries there? So tell us more, and maybe in one quick minute before time is up. I don't know. Hopefully you can hear questions. Yeah, I think, yeah, due to the challenges of connectivity we had earlier, the probability that Dr. Fisher can intervene is probably low. Maybe I'll just direct the same question to you, Mahdi. So what do you think, what kind of positioning we should have here, considering all the parameters of Tunisia that is being, or other Arab countries that are being struggling with many challenges on that front?
Yes, so maybe I'll join Professor Ayad's comment earlier, where in fact most of what we do internationally is done with Europe, and basically we don't look at the Arab countries, and we don't have that many connections, that many links with the Arab country. And the reason is not necessarily because we don't want. The reason is probably because we tried, and it was very difficult. In fact, somehow, at the end of the day, when you are managing a company, a business, you need to forget, you need to ignore your personal ambition and personal aspiration as being part of this ecosystem, and you need to go to the market where you'll find the clients and the maturity that you need to grow your business. And this is exactly what we did in the past. So we have opened a business in Algiers, we have opened a business in Dubai. But these, I mean, and at the end of the day, 20 years later, the biggest two hubs in our company are in Tunis and in Paris. We tried to work in Morocco. We tried to acquire a company in Morocco. I mean, it's not. I cannot explain why, but it's not getting there. It's not getting there. Why? Because the maturity is not there. Because as well, probably it's easier if you look at the Middle East, it's easier for us to go to the Middle East through our Paris office than from our Tunis office. It's easier to get my visas from Paris to Saudi Arabia than from Tunis. So it's all these hurdles, all these constraints for a business are something you'll go naturally where the market is mature. But as a person, we are still happy when we have a project in Algiers. We're still very happy when you have something and you have a team today, the 10 engineers in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and when we work with in Abu Dhabi. So we're still happy. But then we probably need to find the right foundation and the right as well network to enable these businesses to grow, these connections to grow. For the time being, as a company, we go naturally where the market is more mature, and this is giving us a focus, or the direction that we are looking at is naturally Europe.
Yeah, you're totally right. So the bottom line has to be working all right as well for a company. So maybe this requires some attention from the policymakers, from the partners, from international cooperation to support actually regional integration through the cyber world. So with this, I'd like to thank our contributors, our dear panelists, for their amazing contributions, for the eye-openers they have shared today, for the amazing insights. And I'd invite our audience to stay in touch with us, to ask us questions, even after the sessions, and connect with us for collaboration, requests for questions. Please feel also check the remaining sessions of the day, and I will also be there to interview the German unicorn about you, Tarek Müller, in about 1 hour and a half. So thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you again to our panelists, and hope to see you soon again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mehdi.